we get the chance to speak to the cast of Severance. Here's our conversation with Zach Cherry, Britt Lower, and John Turturro. I'm trying to keep these as spoilery free as possible, so forgive me if these are a little existential. But I had a question about how the three of you approach these performances, because I think what you guys do is incredible. There is so much that you're hiding from the audience, as well as your characters, because they aren't supposed to know the things that they don't know. And then there's humor and tragedy and sadness in what you do as well. And forgive the gushing, but it's really cool. What is the approach to that? Because it really works for me.
Oh, thank you so much. I think it's such a team effort, all of those things that you're naming, the tone and the character and learning from each other when we come to set. Those elements, the huge puzzle that we're all building together is really it's a team effort.
And I think in some ways that's true of any role you take on, because you can't bring your full self because you're not identical to the character. So you're always like have other things going on, and also true in life where you might be dealing with something that you don't want to, bring to the dinner party you're at. So I think that's something we're all familiar with. This is just, our show just makes it much more explicit.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, not showing everything it allows the audience to project and fill it in. And that's a big thing that the audience can participate in the show. And I think there is a big participation level in a show like this, because it's very imaginative, and yet it has resonance and relevance to how people, act in a family, in a classroom, on a team, in a work, how you split yourself in your work life, in your personal life. So a lot of it's embedded in there, and then we try to figure it out. Each one of us has different approaches to that, whether you want to fill in it all and then forget about it or not think about it. So, all that matters is what we bring to the bandstand, you know what I mean? And that's it, and if we can groove with each other.
That's very cool. When we spoke almost 3 years ago, at that point, we had been in and out of lockdown, and the pandemic seemed to feature greatly in the conversations that people were having about your show, and also how people responded to the show. Not just in the circumstances in which you guys made it, but also we were kind of navigating our relationships between home and work and all of that stuff. I was wondering, was the experience of making season 2 different? Because we're back to normal now. It seems like everything's back to normal. People seem to have forgotten that this thing happened a few years ago.
Yeah, the elements of season 1 where we were in real life navigating these new protocols on set for health and safety, we were also building an imaginary world that had all these rituals that were kind of peculiar within the Lumen world. So there were some parallels and this sort of strangeness, and that we're in this sterile environment. But the thing that becomes most interesting, at least to me, was the human connection between the characters. So when Ben said action, that was the first time we got to take off our masks and really be with one another and feel one another's humanity. And in season 2, we finally did get to take off our masks and see our coworkers, the crew, for the first time. And that day was a really big deal. I felt really emotional to get to see our coworkers and to really experience their full face. It sounds so simple, but it was really a profound day.
I also think this show finds a way to resonate with whatever moment it arrives in some way. Like, I think because of when it premiered and because of when we were making it, those parallels felt obvious. But I think there will be things about this season that feel very fresh and speak to the moment that we're currently in that people will discover as it airs. So I think there's just something about this show that lets you find connection to whatever it is that's happening right now.
Yeah, I think, shows are strange. You could have the same exact show at a different period of time, and it won't work the same way. It's like what's in the zeitgeist at a certain moment, and sometimes these things connect, and sometimes they don't. And it has nothing to even do with the final product. It has to be at that moment Maybe we were in a moment that people were really receptive to it, or maybe it wouldn't have mattered. I don't know, but I do think it had something to do with it.
I think you're being incredibly humble because I think it's an excellent show. But also, I like what you were saying, John, earlier about the participation that we have with your show, because I feel that's the reason it still resonates. There are a lot of shows that have these long gaps these days between seasons, and they fall out of the cultural conversation. But yet, if you're online or you're on social media, Severance comes up a lot in these cultural references and people's cultural checkpoints. And I think a lot of that has to do with how participatory that it is. That a word? That's a word. How participatory we've become with your show.
Well, I think that the idea of posing a question, there's actors. I once gave an award to Isabelle Huppert, the great French actress, and I watched a lot of her movies and stuff. And she wanted me to give her the speech. She won the New York Film Critics Award. And I said, basically her career is, her performances, she poses questions for the audience. She never answers them. And you're completely riveted, you're invigorated by it, but you don't understand it 100% because she's a person who poses a question to you. She doesn't answer it. There's other performers, they answer it. And I think this show asks these questions of these people and of you.
Yeah. I am all out of time, but that's a beautiful note to end on. Thank you so much, guys. And congratulations. I was apprehensive, but season 2 is just as good as it ever was. So thank you.
Oh, wow.
So much.
Good to hear.
Cheers.
All right.
Bye.
You.
Season 2 of Severance is now streaming on Apple TV Plus. Check it out. Let us know what you think. Sound off in the comments. And thank you so much for watching.